gonna go live. All right. This is very exciting. This is my first craft table interview, and I'm joined today by Dave Marcus of Bite Cannabis. And Dave, I was just at your grand opening last weekend, and I have to say, your event was so well done and so well put together, and everyone looked like they were having a fantastic time, despite the fact that it rained off and on all afternoon, but that didn't seem to dampen anybody's spirits. So congratulations for a fabulous day to start out.
Thank you. I mean, the rain kept the heat down, which was nice because it can really bake.
Yes.
And, you know, we do grow outdoors, which means we like the rain.
Yes, absolutely. I can totally understand why. And you are right. We've had a very hot summer. So some, people complain a bit about the rain, but otherwise it probably would have been 35 degrees and we'd all be melting. So
yeah, a week before I was out there doing some prep work, and after about an hour outside, I was melting. I mean, it was so hot. So I actually, in the grand scheme of things, we're going to do it again next year is the plan. And we're going to have a few more tents just for shade, not for the rain.
Right. Yeah. So it sounds like though that the rain might have been a little bit of a blessing.
I think so.
But for those who are watching, can you tell folks about Bite Cannabis? Because there's probably lots of people seeing this that didn't have the privilege of attending your grand opening.
Sure. Well, why don't I start with the farm gate, because that's what we were opening, was the farm gate store. So that's been a bit of a time in the making, I guess. A bunch of buddies and I built the timber frame structure a couple of years ago, just less than a couple of years ago, I think October of 24. And, we've been in and around the cannabis business for a long time, but this is the first time that we actually got into the retail game. And really, the idea of the retail is not so much a retail store as to showcase the farm and the full product line, because our products are available, throughout Ontario and other provinces as well. But it's rare that, I don't think there's any store that sells every one of our products. And so you can find every one of our products, which is well, certainly above a couple dozen now at the store. The funny thing is, really, if I go way back, and where does Bite come from and what do we do? Like, we started in the hemp business. We incorporated our first hemp business in 1995. So that says something about how old I am. But I was young then, and we actually almost opened a store, strangely.
In 95.
Yeah, because you're all excited about this new industry and how you get it. So we started vending. You know what I mean? Well, we started at a conference anyway, but we started. The business started with vending at shows, festivals, that kind of thing. And then it's like, okay, if we're going to really do something here, the next obvious step to us and a bunch of our compatriots at the time, because a bunch of, like, a Friendly Stranger and Toronto Hemp Company and a bunch of those, Dom and Robin and Joy, and a bunch of us started right around that same time. And so it seemed like the obvious thing to do was start a store. And so we actually bid on a place on Queen West in Toronto, and it got rented out from under us, and we thought that was like such a drag and such a blow. What are we going to do now? And looking back, it was like about the best thing that ever happened to us. So that's one thing I've learned in my life. Sometimes those things that in the moment seem to be the worst end up being the best. So the roots of whole hemp. So Abide has two sort of parts. Abide, which is the company name, but it's our brand of cannabis that's not strictly low THC, and then Whole Hemp is the brand that is strictly low THC. And I think we were the first sort of licensed cannabis producer in Canada that actually launched with a low THC brand. It totally cut against the grain, but when everyone's zigging, I like to zag, and our roots are in hemp, right? We started our first hemp company back then, and when we didn't rent our store, we kind of like poked around a bit and did some work with the Six Nations. We grew our own hemp. We started a research project. We did a 3-year research project with Ernie Small, Dr. Small at Agriculture Canada, who was kind of the foremost hemp expert practically in the world. He had been researching hemp with Agriculture Canada since the early 70s. And the challenge with the hemp industry at that time was hemp has historically always been a fiber crop, but we and a number of others in Canada saw its potential in Canada as a seed crop, or what they call a grain crop, producing seed for human consumption. And so we set about doing this research project I think we got about a couple hundred different lines from all over the world, and we grew them over 3 years, wrote a bunch of papers. And out of that, we started a breeding project where we developed hemp varieties specifically to raise the productivity of the grain production. And so we're no longer doing the breeding, but we still have varieties on the market. So that's been 26 years now. And then, you know, when the MMPR came around, we put our hat in the ring for that. And that's when that's when Abide as its own corporate entity was established with the idea of doing medical marijuana. And we actually got one of the earliest letters to build. Like we're in the top, you know, dozen or top 20 of the first sort of, they weren't licenses at that time, and they don't do it that way now, but you first had to propose what you were going to do. And then if you checked all the boxes, then you got the letter to build. And as long as you built what you said you were going to build, then you would get the license. And we were super excited about that. And then again, in one of these life things that happens, turns out the building we were going to grow in, that a buddy of mine owned, they were going to buy a new building, and so that building was going to be extra. So we're going to rent that and grow in there. Turns out the other deal fell through. So I actually went and conditionally bought another building and sent a letter to Health Canada saying we'd like to amend our license application. Same plan, same everything. It's just at this different address. And they're like, no, sorry, you can't do that. You're now back of the line. And so instead of being, say, number 15 or 20, we were like number 300 or something. And it's like,
right.
Forget that. So again, one of those things where it's like the worst thing because we'd spent so much energy and we'd spent so much work getting that. But again, it was the best thing that happened to us because we would have been just like everybody else. And by that, I mean, we would have been growing indoors and it would have been the same deal. And so we stepped back and kind of bided our time a little bit. I mean, the name Abide, there's a whole bunch of references there, but we kind of bided our time and worked with the hemp industry and really tried to make sure that as things evolved and we saw that the cannabis regulations were coming about, we worked to make sure that hemp growers could be included so that CBD from hemp, not just from indoor grows, would be allowed. And then as it started evolving, the task force, you know, recommended outdoor growing. We're like, yes, that's it. And so we realized, you know, like we're growing 100,000, not we personally, but collectively we're growing 100,000 plus acres of hemp every year. It's all outdoors. The plant does great outdoors. It made sense to us. That's when really the penny dropped. It's like, we want to grow this outdoors. So we worked really hard to make sure that the outdoor recommendations of the task force were actually followed through and made it into the regs. And so I actually reached out to a bunch of papers back at that time and got a bunch of co-authors who were much better known to the government than I was. And we wrote here's life, right? I mean, they all agreed to co-author it with me, but at the end of the day, everyone was too busy. So I wrote it and they all edited it, which was really good of them because it was much better for it being edited.
Yes.
And they all signed it. And that paper actually made it onto the House of Commons website and was kind of part of their justification because there was a lot of lobbying by the incumbent large players who had, because of having their roots also in the medical program, they had invested in literally millions of square feet of indoor space. And they saw the outdoor grow as being this competitor they didn't want to deal with because, it's a lot cheaper when you don't have to burn energy to put in lights and dehumidification and cooling and all the other stuff, right? Plus just the cost of the bricks and mortar and the taxes and just everything, right? So they actually lobbied hard against outdoor. I saw their documents and honestly, they were all lies, like straight out lies, but there's a whole other story I won't get into now, but outdoor became part of the regs. And then it's like, well, I guess we better do it. We worked so hard to get it. And so we got a cultivation license and basically concurrent with our processing license. But because of our experience and our contacts and history in the hemp industry, we knew all these growers. So we actually started with our processing license and contracting out the hemp production, which we still do to this day, because any farmer can get a hemp license. You got to fill out some forms, but there's no real barrier to entry. And we started with whole hemp. Yeah. And we actually started with oil because we thought the CBD oil was going to be the thing. And strangely, in the hemp industry, it was the same thing. The idea was that the hemp oil was going to be the thing, but it turns out, like I would say 80% of the 100,000 plus acres we grow goes into hulled seed, the hemp hearts. That was actually the thing, though in the early days, everybody thought it was going to be, the CBD oil. and the hemp oil. And so we thought it was going to be CBD oil too. So we got our license and we sent our first, product, what do they call it? Like a product call to the OCS. And so we put in one product and it was our CBD oil. And we're like, okay, we already bought the bottles and we got everything ready. And then we get this letter back, like a month later. Yeah, sorry, we're rejecting your CBD oil. We got enough of that. What else you got? We're like, what?
Oh, wow. So it wasn't the product itself. It was just that they had too much.
They already had CBD oil. They're like, what else you got? We're like, I don't know. Let's think about that. So we thought about it and we developed a cream that we really love, right? Our CBD cream. And so we're like, well, how about our cream? Because we've already made the oil and basically our cream is just our CBD oil and shea butter. That's basically it, right?
Right.
And our oil is quite different than everybody else's. I mean, all of the other players, again, everyone's doing this. We like to do that, but we just went old school, right? And so when everybody else uses extraction, right? And so it's ethanol or supercritical CO2, but using generally alcohol or carbon dioxide as a solvent, we just do like a really slow, low temperature infusion directly in the oil, right? Where they extract it and then mix it back to the oil. We use an organic sunflower oil and we just do like a long, low temperature infusion. So you get really, truly a full spectrum oil. And so we just take that oil and we whip it with shea butter, and it's this beautiful cream. And so we proposed the cream, the next product call, and they said yes, and hallelujah, now we're in the game. And that was during COVID. And like we had a big meetings over the team, our small team, but we had a team meeting on the Friday and we were going to start production on the Monday because we had 2 weeks till we had to ship it. And then like on the weekend, I got a call, someone's contracted COVID. And so entire team was quarantined for 10 days. And that was like, so my kids and their friend came in, and by the whole team came back, we had made the whole cream run, which was kind of fun. And so we launched with our cream. And so but actually just to use the analogy of the hemp, hemp hearts, not hemp oil being the thing, in the end, the cream's great. It helps people with all sorts of things, but selling truly like a health and wellness product through a recreational distribution channel, it's like oil and water. It doesn't mix, right? So the cream, people love it who use it, but actually right now in the OCS, stores have to buy a case of anything they buy, except for topicals, and they can buy 1 unit at a time. That's how few topicals are sold through the recreational channel. And
I suppose that's not what people are going into the stores for. They're going in for their flower and their vape pens and their pre-rolls and all that kind of thing. But you'd think that they'd find, like, I can't live without any kind of topicals. I've used the whole hemp one because I was working in a dispensary during the pandemic. And so I remember when it came out and I bought it and I loved it, which is like,
thank you.
Yeah, it was great. Well, I mean, like, shea butter is beautiful. And so, a lot of the other stuff that was on the market was like really expensive and just sort of like your typical lotion or whatever.
That's right. Like just a mass manufactured thing. And so like, I find it weird that we're not considered craft, right? Even though we buy the OCS because, as far as we're concerned, we are the epitome of craft, but I mean, on the flower. And so what we found is the cream, people loved it and we sell some. The thing that really worked for us was our CBD flower, and that is our hemp hearts, right? And so I think a few months later, we launched our first CBD flower and we were thrilled to find out that people loved it. It's been the best-selling CBD flower on the market since we launched it. But because we machine trim it and then hand groom it, it's not considered craft. But like if you're in the brewing industry, if you're making craft beer, they don't tell you how to make your beer. If you're less than a certain size, you're a craft brewer, right? So I think that's ridiculous. And I'm trying to get the OCS to change that. So anyone who wants to write to the OCS and say, whole hemp and abide, their product should be craft, right? Please do.
That's the only reason is because you're using a machine to trim instead of hand trimming.
And it's just the original trim. We still do a final hand trim. Like every single bud that goes in the bag is like lovingly groomed. It's just, we would have to charge a lot more per gram if we had to do every bit of it by hand. And honestly, it's just like, you know, we try and make our products really cost effective for people because they help people generally. Like we really try and focus on products that have therapeutic benefit. And so, you know, like that keeps the price down.
Yeah.
Right.
And it sounds like you're really ahead of the curve too on the whole like CBD flower and also like the balanced ratioed products, the lower THC stuff, because it seems to me that a lot more people are talking about those types of products now. And maybe just in Canada in particular, we've had legalization for a while. So new people are coming to the legal market for the first time, or maybe the first time in, you know, a few decades.
Yeah.
And they want to get back into it, but they don't necessarily need like, you know, the super high potency flower that seems to be popular.
Listen,
I
I totally agree. And in fact, when we started growing higher THC material at the farm, like, so after launching whole hemp, we started growing at the farm and then we harvested the farm. So when we started, rather than launching Abide on its own, the first year, we did a hybrid, we did a blend of Abide and whole hemp. So we did it with the cream, right? Where we did a THC plus CBD cream, a 1-to-1 cream.
Yeah.
We do a 2-to-1 to 20-10 oil, same idea. But on the flower and pre-rolls, we were doing blends of the CBD flower with our farm grown THC flower, because we learned by talking to bud tenders that a lot of the people, some people were buying our CBD flower and smoking it straight, but a lot of people were buying it and blending it with their higher THC flower because the stuff's so bloody strong, and it was just a way of kind of mellowing it out. And so we started with that Abide plus whole hemp first. So probably the first year and a half that we had Abide product in the market, it was actually this co-branding of the two brands. And then we kind of, as things evolved, we decided to just split off Abide. And what we found is, even though people liked the balanced product, single strain was more popular than blends. And so we started, our mango sapphire haze is a 1-to-1. We've got our lemon sapphire, which is a 2-to-1. Those are our two best-selling flowers. And we also grow out, we've been growing some higher THC, but even the higher THC, we're in the low 20s, not the high 20s, low 30s. And so we've really tried to focus on that. And if anything, we're even going back more to a stronger focus on the balanced market. So our slogan is find your balance. So we try and have, something for everybody, because we think there's lots of differentiation in the balanced category, right? Not just in the high THC category. And the other thing we've done is we've added CBG into the mix, which is, where whole hemp was originally just CBD. We've started introducing CBG flower, and, we offer it. We have never really pushed it because the one hemp variety that expresses CBG that's been on the market, Panakia, it's all right, but it's kind of not as high in CBG as we like. It has some monoecious genes floating around, so you do get some seeds in it. The bud's a little bit sort of fluffy. It's okay, but it's not like the main varieties that we or cultivars that we grow for the CBD flower are Umpqua and Cherry Blossom, CBF1. And those two really have beautiful bud structure, and the CBDs in the mid to high teens, they're great flower. And so this year we've got there's a new varietal on the market called Gigi.
Okay.
And so we're going to be relaunching our whole hemp CBG flower this fall once the harvest is in. And actually, I think they're starting harvest today, which is pretty exciting.
Oh, that
it's
is
an auto, so it's an early.
Yeah.
And so we're super excited about that, because we've got this really popular CBD flower, and we think with the relaunch of the CBG flower, it's just a little bit different. I mean, both are non-intoxicating, but they're both psychoactive, and that's an interesting thing to think about, right? And CBG and CBD are both are both non-intoxicating, but both psychoactive, but they have different types of psychoactivity. And I think it's going to be really fun for customers to try both, blend both, see which they like. And so I'm super excited that now we've got this whole hemp CBG flower coming out that's going to be as good as our CBD flower.
Yeah, I'll have to look for that, because I've had a lot of people talk about how they like to blend THC with CBD and CBG specifically to give them like a really balanced effect. And so being able to purchase that, I think, is going to be really exciting. I'll be looking for it for sure. But one thing I wanted to ask you about is just the process of having like an outdoor farm, because
Sure.
that's definitely something like I don't know how many outdoor farms there are in Ontario. Very few.
Well, we're the only farm gate store in Ontario. We learned that.
Right.
There are other
Yeah.
farm gate stores, but they're all associated with like indoor operations. So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think they're like indoor stores. I don't know. It's not really a
Yeah,
farm
no,
gate.
I think you're right. You're the only one attached to an outdoor farm.
That's right.
I think there might have been one other outdoor grow somewhere in Ontario, if I
I think there was
recall.
one that closed. That's what I
Oh,
heard.
did they? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, again, I'm no expert.
Yeah.
So, but the outdoor farming, I mean, I love it. It's been a lot of learning to do it at
Mhm.
scale, and we have, we are in close correspondence with our hemp growers because they have like this deep knowledge of growing orchard style feminized plants for bud, right? And we've been working with like our key growers we've been working with for years, and we really try and take a regenerative approach. We're certified organic, which is an important part. So living soil, and I mean really living soil. And it's interesting for us, and I say we learn because I mean, though we've been in the hemp industry for a long time and we've grown hemp along the way, a lot of the growing that we've done has been third party, and we've been more behind the scenes, even though in the early days we were growing it ourselves. So it was kind of like a relearning experience, and where we are, the challenge of the field, I would say, is that it's clay, pretty heavy clay, which is powerful soil, but it can be a bit hard to establish the crop in. And so it took us the first couple of years of growing, it took us a couple of years to really, I think, what I would say is really figure it out well. And one of the things we did, which was kind of one of those lucky coincidences, I guess, we were trying different ways of transplanting, and so we got an auger on the back of the, like a post hole auger on the back of the tractor. And we started drilling holes in the field and then backfilling them with mushroom compost and peat, really good soil, and transplanting into that. And what we learned from that is that brought air into the soil, into the clay. And that's the problem with clay. It doesn't get oxygen,
Right.
it doesn't get air.
Heavy.
And after that, I mean, the number of worms in that field, you take a scoop of that soil and there's like 100 worms. It's crazy.
Amazing. Yeah.
And I think it's partially because we did that. Plus we grow cover crops, clover in particular, which fix nitrogen. But the other thing, in the early years, we weren't doing that. And in August, like now when it was hot, it was like a desert that had been, like baked, the ground was cracked. I mean, it was just horrible, right? It's kind of like dead earth, right? I mean, even though the plants would grow in it, with the cover crop, it creates this beautiful kind of like microclimate almost right on at that low level above the soil, which holds the moisture in, and just the plants are so much happier and healthier, and so it's been a real cool learning experience. And I mean, I think it was 2 years ago now. I don't think it was last year. I think it was 2 years ago that the OCS came and did a field notes documentary on the farm, and that was the first year we really nailed it. So the timing was great.
Yeah. Well, and
that's
if you're growing anything, really, soil is everything. And I just say this is someone who just got a batch of worms yesterday and I'm starting a little worm farm for myself, but that soil is everything. But can you talk a little bit about what you've noticed with outdoor versus indoor grown? Because I think especially in Canada, we've been very accustomed to the indoor grow just because prohibition forced everybody inside, unless you're doing like guerrilla growing, but it was hard to, do that at scale. But we're less accustomed to what makes outdoor grown cannabis so fantastic. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you're absolutely right to say that the way we think of it has been influenced by prohibition, right? Because that's just what we were used to. But I think, my conspiratorial hat I'm wearing now, but like, I mean, I read those anti-outdoor lobby documents that the big incumbent publicly traded players, fed to the government to try and get them to stop outdoor growing. And like I said, they were lies, like flat out, just bullshit. Excuse my language.
Right.
I think so when they lost that one, I think there's been this low level campaign to sort of like say, outdoor cannabis is just not as good. But I've been in the hemp industry, like I said, since the mid '90s, and so I've got lots of friends and deep roots in, say, the Northern California scene, right? I mean, I remember I landed in San Francisco for a hemp conference for the HIA the day that George Bush Jr. was reelected, and it was like that place was in mourning, man. I mean, it was, you know what I mean? Like, it was horrible. But in that culture, like, it's all about outdoor growing, and they believe that the best cannabis is grown outdoors, right? So, I mean, that's how we feel. And I mean, in fact, there's a certification. I don't know if you know Dr. Bronner's Magic Soap, but
yes, I do.
David Bronner is a dude, man, a good friend over the years, and he has done so many good things. I've got so many stories, but he's been part of an organization called Sun and Earth that is a certifier that is basically a certification system for like outdoor cannabis, and their whole vision is to elevate the status of outdoor growing, because I mean, the general idea is the sun actually creates a more complex terpene array in the plant, because you don't get a more full spectrum light than sunlight by definition. With the living soil, you get these healthy, robust plants, right? Because of wind and rain and everything. So personally, I think, I'm biased, but I think it's every bit as good and arguably superior to in-grown plant. Now, I will say, if it's all about, like the centerfold photo of your nug porn, right? Okay, you're gonna get a sexier shot of an indoor, bud that has never seen the elements, for sure. But if you're just talking about the experience of consuming and the high and just the experience, my preference is clearly on outdoor. And it's not just because I'm in the game. I mean, I look at that culture, like in America, that is kind of the epicenter. Like Humboldt County is like the epicenter of the cannabis culture, and it is all outdoor, like by definition, right? Because not because they have to, because they so deeply believe it, and they've been doing it for decades.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I just think that it's one of those other little things we have to get over, I think. Yeah. And not to say that you can't grow beautiful cannabis indoors. You absolutely can. There's some craft growers that are doing a beautiful job at that. But there is nothing, you can't really compare the sunshine and the wind and all that, the soil, like all those things that come.
You can't get as healthy indoor soil. You just can't, because the microbes, the worms, there's just everything that exists in the soil. Like, I don't know of anyone doing indoor grows, companion plants that are legumes that are fixing nitrogen in the soil. Like, you're getting, it's green nitrogen. Yeah. And then quite honestly, on top of that, like if you care about sustainability, if you care about the climate crisis, like,
that's a big piece.
There's just no comparison, right?
Yeah, that's a big piece, especially those corporate grows that you were talking about that were kind of lobbying against you. I mean, their greenhouses are, I don't know how many tens of thousands of square feet, and those are all lit up with artificial light like that. There's a cost associated with that.
Heating, lighting, dehumidification, all that. I mean, it's a cost, an economic cost, but there's an environmental cost to that, because it's using energy, right? A lot of it. And it actually means that the product, at the end of the day, if we actually had a marketplace for cannabis that reflected the real cost of production, right? Which we don't, because there are lots of brands there that are just buying weed from companies that can't make a go of it, because there are certain producers that are selling below cost because they're buying distressed assets and flipping it. They don't even grow. They're just moving old inventory, right? Like, or they're buying market share.
In an actual grow. Yeah. Now, a couple more questions for you today, Dave. First of all, the farm gate implies that you have a direct relationship with your customer, because people can come right to the store. They can see the cannabis growing out in the field from the porch of the store, which is fantastic. How do you hope to foster that relationship with the customer and the community as you move forward now that you're open?
Well, part of the opening and having a party was to really welcome the community, right? Because I think it starts there. And it was so nice that the mayor and councilors showed up and the Chamber of Commerce showed up. Like, it was cute, right? I mean, and they were really happy to be there. And we told the story at the opening, which I think is really meaningful. When we first had this idea, we reached out to the municipality and found out that they didn't have municipal regulations pertaining to cannabis growing yet, but they had a draft. And they were cool enough, they shared the draft with us, and they had borrowed the draft, as it were, from some other municipality, but it was clearly designed for indoor growing because it had a maximum of 1 acre as the area you could grow on. And I'm so like pleased to have met such cool people in the community through that, because when we explained our vision, they engaged us in the process and helped us, and they actually encouraged us to inform them. And we have 15 acres now behind fence, which wouldn't have been possible. And I think, I don't know, they did cap it. I don't know if it was 25 or 50 acres, but it was quite a much larger, because they got that, 1 acre of cannabis was not sufficient outdoor, because you get one crop a year, right? I mean, and they got that. And so when they showed up for the opening, I just thought that was great. And we planned the weekend to coincide with the agricultural fair in town. So we really saw ourselves out of it as an offshoot of the agricultural fair. Right. And I think, like, for the community members, like, people from out of town came and stayed for a while, but there are lots of people who showed up for like 20 minutes, half an hour. And it's kind of like a destigmatization. And the general impression we got from the local community is that they're thrilled. And the guys that work for us, the young guys who work for us, they're from the community. Yeah. They were so pleased. They were so happy, right? They were just beaming the whole day because they were able to show off their hard work, and people were responding so well. So we hope that continues, and we hope people come and it becomes a destination. They say if you build it, they will come. We're testing that notion because it's kind of not on the main road, right? But
it's a little off the beaten track in Campbellford, but you're totally right, because honestly, the local municipality could have gone either way, right? Like, they could have been, we don't want this at all, or who knows what. But just the fact that you're normalizing it for the community as well, I think is really fantastic, because there was families and kids and all kinds of people that showed up to the event, and hopefully they'll show up when you're not having a party.
And I love the fact that with the whole hemp product, like, it's not just about getting intoxicated.
Yes.
Right. So it really can appeal to anybody. I mean, my mom's in her 80s and she uses our cream on our arthritic hands every day, and it really helps her. Right. Like, you know what I mean? So it's I think especially for that therapeutic part of what we do, the farm gate store can be really nice, because, back in the day, the OCS had a broader category, like a broader offering on their OCS.ca. Website, sort of the mail order or whatever. And so you could get, we have CBDA caps, which really help people. But they delisted them because it didn't meet their minimum sales requirements. But half our sales were through their website, right? And it's like, I wouldn't care if they had 8 other CBDA products, right? Because as long as people can get it. But we were the only CBDA product that they offered. Right. And so I've been trying to get it, but they're just thinking about something else.
People also don't know enough about CBDA either, but that's also a whole conversation.
So we hope to use it for education. It's a place where people can come and get these things and try them, either to have fun and smoke a little something on a Friday night, or just to put it on your sore, aching joints, right? Whatever it is.
Yeah. So just a couple more questions. I have a couple of questions here from Monkey in the chat, and he wants to know what common cannabis products can't be made using hemp. And as a follow-up also, what product are you most proud of?
Okay. So was the question can or cannot be made out of hemp?
Cannot be made. Is there anything that can't be made with hemp?
Okay. Well, intoxicating joints cannot be made with hemp.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I leave that aside, I mean, I've spoken a lot about the nutritional aspects of the seed. I mean, I haven't touched much on the fiber, but what carried our first hemp business for like almost 30 years were pure hemp rolling papers. And because we were the North American distributor, they were made in Spain, and I love them because they showed what absolutely beautiful, high quality paper could be made with hemp. Now, does that mean that I'm suggesting that we shouldn't use any wood, right? We should grow, I know, because that's agricultural land, and I don't think we should be growing, you know, our paper on agricultural land. But what I learned as an example is when you grow for seed, you have the leftover paper or the leftover fiber. The fiber, when it goes to flower, when the plant goes to flower, lignifies, which means it's no longer good enough. Like it's too coarse for, say, textiles. And I mean, hemp textiles are beautiful, but then you have to grow it just for the fiber. But if you have the residual fiber, you can pulp that, and then you can blend it into recycled paper stock. Because as you recycle paper, every generation, the fibers get shorter and shorter and shorter, and the quality of the fiber, you basically get, the only thing you make with it is, you know, egg cartons. Right. But if you put 5% of the hemp fiber back into that mix, and it can be the residual crop from a seed crop or from a CBD crop, and you blend that in, it gives the lattice, like the skeleton of the paper, and you can get really high quality paper with low quality recycled pulp and the hemp. So that's just another example. I mean, I know people who built homes with hemp, right? Whether it's hemp straw bale or the East of Chanvre, where you're naturally petrifying the herds with lime. So I mean, there aren't that many things you can't do with it. You know, so I mean, what can you do? You probably, I haven't heard anyone making like a battery out of hemp, though. That's not true, because I know a guy who's working on a carbon battery, and there's some cool research on using because the long bast fiber strands, if you carbonize them, they hold their structure. So it has some really, so maybe you can make batteries out of them too. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out. You are right that they are experimenting a lot with that kind of stuff, because I've heard that they've made like the panels, body panels for automobiles.
Well, in Europe, where we went in Canada all to really seed production, they went to fiber because the fiber was subsidized by the EU, but also they had regulations which stated that I think 80% or something of the car had to be compostable or recyclable. And so, yeah, I mean, they've been using hemp and flax fiber interior body panels in European cars for decades.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so like for decades. It's
mass market cars.
Mass market has been for years.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, we're so behind.
But it's because of the regulations. Like lots of people think regulations are bad. I actually think regulations are good, right? And part of the name for Abide is obviously we thought it was fun because the dude abides. But actually, like we're unusual because we actually have always played by the rules. Like we follow the laws, but that doesn't mean we like the laws. And so we worked hard to change the laws so that we could abide by them. And so our history is one. And so our latest one, which was actually the lady from the Chamber of Commerce, she said, why don't you do the farmer's market in town? And I said, we'd love to, but we can't. The regulations don't allow it. She said, well, you know, I don't know, but for the longest time, you couldn't do that with alcohol either. But the last couple of years, they've got alcohol vendors now at the farmers markets. So the Chamber of Commerce, and she's going to go to the Ontario Association of Chamber of Commerce and go to bat for us to try and change the laws again, the regulations, to allow us to sell our products at farmers markets, which would be super cool. And
everybody would love that. Anybody who goes to a farmers market ever would love that. I was just talking about it with some folks at my cannabis club recently, actually, because they just changed that law in New York State where they can sell at the farmers markets. And I'm not really sure look yet, but I'm sure a lot of people will be very thrilled to go get their fresh tomatoes and their bottle of local wine and their weed.
That's it. Or their CBD cream.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm glad to know that there's a precedent in New York, because like for the last 30 years, it's been like this with state level in the States and then federal in Canada, and then state level in the States and then federal in Canada. And it's been back and forth that we built on each other's shoulders. And so here's just another example.
Yeah, exactly. So the other question that Monkey had was, what's the product that you're most proud of?
Yeah.
If you could only choose one, that's always the hard part.
This is going to seem crazy, but our cream.
Right.
The CBD cream. I know what enormous relief it has brought so many people And I love it because you're not even ingesting it. Even people who have this kind of still maintain a stigma against cannabis, they're willing to try it because even if they were ingesting it, it'd be non-intoxicating, and you can eat it because you can eat shea butter. I'm not saying you should, but you could. But so people, and especially like we've got an aging population, right? And so we've got more and more people who have ailments, and I don't like the pharmaceutical industry, right? But I think that people can find a lot of relief and can really like solve some of their issues using variety of forms of cannabis. But the cream is just the easiest. I mean, it works. You get a mosquito bite, it works. I keep bees. I started developing a bit of an allergy to the bee stings, but if I can get the CBD cream on there within the first minute, it basically never erupts. It just goes away.
Oh, nice.
Canker sores. I mean, my father-in-law actually is a dermatologist, and he practiced for like 50 years. In the last 10 years of his practice, he started, he was like old school. He wasn't so sure about this THC thing, but the CBD he could get his head around. So he started trialing our CBD cream with all sorts of patients. He is the biggest convert. He thinks it works for everything. I'm not saying it works for everything, but it's incredible to see someone with his experience and medical background.
As a dermatologist, no less.
And a dermatologist. And he just, honestly, he can't believe how effective it is for so many things like gout. My dad used to suffer from gout. He said, you put it on, you put plastic over it every night for 3 nights, and basically you've got 2 weeks without gout.
Wow. Okay. I haven't heard of it for that use, but I mean, it's so harmless to try as well if it's going to work. And it's such a nice entry point into cannabis because it's, like you said, it helps so many people. And even I have my father's 95 and he uses creams and CBD and stuff like that. And my sister, my niece is a competitive soccer player and, you know, does not consume cannabis at this point. She's far too young for that, but has used cannabis oils and creams on, you know, sore knees and things like that from playing soccer. So like, it's just something you can share with anyone.
I think that's why it's my favorite product. Right. And, you know, and it was our first. So you always got to love the first.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I hope people will come out and check out your farm at Abide the Farm Gate out in Campbellford. They can pick up the cream there, I would imagine, and all the other products as well. So I just want to say thank you so much for your time today, Dave. I wish you all the best, and I hope to be out there again soon. You're not too far away from me. So,
well, it was a pleasure to meet you last weekend. It's a pleasure to speak with you again. Please do come out. And like I said, we're hoping to throw the party again next year. So if not before, maybe we can do it again.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, such a pleasure. Thank you.